Whole lot of gang shit going on. What's happening? What's cracking? It's your girl, Lady Rev, with another episode of Talking Out the Side of the Neck. How you living? How you living? Welcome to 2022. Woo-dee woo woo woo. I think the real new year doesn't actually start in January, though. I think it starts in a couple months or something. Okay, let me stop being annoying. Anyways, what's good with y'all? Hope y'all been chilling. Be easy, staying breezy. Hope you've been able to practice some healing and whatnot. And if not, I hope you're working your way there. This episode is gonna be called Love Yourself. It's actually my second take, y'all, too. So I'm hoping to touch on some of the same things I just said. So boom, love yourself. I actually did not write a lot of notes for myself, which was low-key surprising. Like, of all times to not write no notes. I didn't really write no notes on this one. The only note I have is less judgment, more accountability. Okay, boom, less judgment. Stop worrying about other motherfuckers. Like, I guess that's the easiest way to say the less judgment piece. We don't care about what nobody else is doing. Whatever someone else is doing has nothing to do with us and what we got going on. We cannot allow too much energy to go into that area of our life because it's just super counter fucking productive. You are not God. You are not Mayat. We are pieces of, but not those things. So, I don't know. I don't even want to get too far up in that. It ain't your duty, boo. It's not your job. Do something else. More accountability to me relates to, like, instead of us talking shit about what everyone else is doing and what they shouldn't be doing and so on and so forth, are we focusing on what we're doing and what we shouldn't be doing? And are we making sure that our fucking ducks in a row? Because if our ducks ain't in a goddamn row, we shouldn't even be looking at nobody else's ducks. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your ship is sinking, how you talking about the next nigga shit? Your shit is sinking. You might wanna tend to that shit for you under the water. So that's how I feel about the less judgment, more accountability thing. Loving yourself is a complicated thing. Because I think there's a lot of ways to fake like you love yourself or to like act like you love yourself without actually loving yourself. Like, without actually being wholly, genuinely loving on yourself. And there's a very, very thin line that happens right there. And most people, sometimes you just can't tell the difference. I think that's an easy way to say it. It's just hard to tell the difference sometimes. Sometimes it's not until you actually talk to somebody or spend some time with them, or maybe you go somewhere with them or have an experience with them, and then you'll start to realize, like, oh, maybe this person might not love themselves as much as they say they do, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even if just to reflect on yourself, like, you might go do some shit and then you realize, like, maybe you're not as secure as you thought you was. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to be secure when nothing is challenging that security. It's easy to say that you love yourself when nothing has ever challenged that. To me, loving yourself and being secure of yourself withstands a challenge. So if something comes and knocks you off your Richter, and now all of a sudden you questioning your whole being, then maybe your being was never secured in the first place. If you meet somebody and they feel some type of way about you, and then it makes you kind of reevaluate who you are, then maybe you never knew what the fuck was going on in the first goddamn place. And that's okay, because we all learning this shit. So it's all right if you ain't know. But once you know, it becomes your responsibility to do something about the shit. It becomes your responsibility. It's no one else's job to love us. All bullshit aside. Like, I know motherfuckers don't like to hear that, because everybody feels like entitled. You know what I'm saying? Everybody feels that motherfuckers owe them something, or there has to be some type of representation of that love from other motherfuckers. But all bullshit aside, when it boils down, it is literally no one's job to love on you outside of yourself. Anybody else that love on you is like a bonus type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just a bonus to loving yourself. But it's really your job. It's your job to make you happy. It's your job to love on you. It's your job to give you what you need. It's your job to listen to yourself, to know your body, to be responsive to search. Like, it's literally just your job. I really want to harp on that. Because we spend too much time waiting on another motherfucker to love us, when we really could just be doing that for ourselves. And granted, I know it can be hard to love yourself, especially when other people don't. I think I've pretty much dealt with depression my whole life, for real, for real. And there was a time that I didn't know what to call it, and there was a time that I didn't know how to explain it. But as I got older and I kind of been on my journey, I started to realize like what exactly it was and how to name it and stuff like that. I do think it's important to be able to name shit because it helps you identify the problem and a solution. And so, you know, as I've gone through different episodes of sadness and mania, losing my goddamn mind at points, and shit, I've even, you know, it's hard to talk about sometimes, but you know, I've had issues with suicide. And so for me personally, I feel like I've dealt with some very extreme levels of not loving myself. So I know what the shit look like. You know what I'm saying? I know it's just like a little gift that I have now, especially since I've kind of come back from that edge. Sometimes I could just talk to people or be around people and I just feel it like, damn, they don't love themselves enough. Like, damn, this person just you just don't even know how much better this could be if you just loved yourself, you know? And so I want to challenge folks to do that, to love yourself and figure out what that looks like and what that should feel like. Now, one way to figure that out is self-care. And I have 3 rules for what self-care should or feel like, look like, or whatever. And I want to leave it broad. Like, I want to leave the concept of self-care fairly broad. So my rules are just these 3 things. Number 1, it has to be controlled by you. Excuse me. If it's not controlled by you, then that means you're literally relying on someone else for that, right? So I'm going to keep reiterating that nobody else is responsible for doing that shit for you but your goddamn self. So it needs to be 100% controlled by you. If your self-care is to go shopping, well, if you're broke or the mall is closed and you can't go shopping, then you can't practice that self-care. So that's not something that's controlled by you. I wouldn't consider that self-care. Boom. Keep that short and simple. The second thing it needs to have is consistency. It has to be something you could do all the time. Now you see how shopping don't work? You see how shopping don't work? You don't have money to be shopping all the time. Maybe you do. Maybe you do. Excuse me. You might do. Excuse me. But it's still not controlled by you. So anyways. Yeah, but it needs to be consistent. It needs to be something that you could easily do all the time or at any given moment that you might need it. For example, I'm a breathing motherfucker. Boy, sometimes when I'm feeling too much tension or some shit, I'm just going to stop and I'm going to breathe. And I can do that wherever the fuck I'm at, whatever situation I'm in. I will sit there and start doing my breathing. Okay? I control that and I can be consistent with that. And then the last thing, number 3, the last thing I would say self-care needs to have, it has to give you some type of tangible result. It will. It really, really will. Especially if it's coming from you and it's consistent, it's going to give you, number 3, a tangible result. So you're going to either feel better, you know what I'm saying? You might feel more balanced, you know what I'm saying? It might give you some renewed energy, brighten up your day or some shit like that. Like, it gives you something. If you practicing something and you calling it self-care, but it's not giving you nothing, it's not feeding your body, soul, or mind in any way, shape, or form, then I wouldn't really even call that self-care. I don't know what the fuck to call it, but I wouldn't call it self-care. Because something needs to be coming out of it. Something will come out of it. It's not even necessarily a need. It will. It's just kind of like off top, you know what I'm saying? Because you're growing and you're giving yourself what you need. Let me see, what else I want to say? As I already said, It's hard for me to say what loving yourself could look like per se, because I want to be equitable. Like everybody loving themselves might look a little bit different, you know what I'm saying? But you don't have to hurt other motherfuckers in order to love yourself. I know that for damn sure. Um, Loving yourself isn't expensive. It's not, it doesn't have to be trendy. It does not have to be glorified by other motherfuckers. Like, it doesn't have to be accepted by other motherfuckers. No, loving yourself has nothing to do with how other people love you. Um, it has nothing to do with the type of opportunity. Sometimes I guess that's a double-sided coin right there. It could have something to do with the opportunities. It could. But yeah, loving yourself isn't abusive or manipulative. And you don't need other people to love you in order for you to love yourself. And I know I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna probably have to keep saying that because I don't think people really be following that one. You know what I'm saying? And we don't see enough of it. And, you know, we got all these cameras and shit now, so now it's seeing and believing type shit. You know what I'm saying? So we don't see motherfuckers loving themselves so tough, despite all regard that you know, that it's a normal thing. We don't see that. I don't care how you try to put that. There's so many people like bandwagoning, groupie hopping, and all kind of shit. So it's hard to tell if a motherfucker just sitting there loving on themselves. Some people are exploiting themselves. That's not love. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. It's a very, very, it's a change in perception. It's definitely a change in perception. Like, to love yourself is to change your train of thought. It's to change the way you see yourself. It's to change the value that you place on yourself. It has nothing to do with comparing yourself to other people or being accepted by other people. It has nothing to do with like any of that. It's just a wholesome process. A wholesome one man stand process. And it's hard to commit to it sometimes, especially because life keeps going, right? Life shit happens all the fucking time. And that's why healing becomes essential, because you trying to heal yourself from the old shit that made you low-key not love yourself or have a fucked up view of the world or have fucked up relationships, whatever. You're trying to heal from all of that shit. Meanwhile, life shit is still happening. People are dying. People are getting hurt. Relationships are ending. People have to move. The housing crisis in the U.S. is something I love to keep mentioning, because for black folks, there is a housing crisis like fuck across the entire country. You can't even just say one place. I've been to several different spots in the U.S. who are all dealing with the exact same gentrification, same housing crisis, just different places. So the housing crisis is batshit crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? So there's always some trauma going on. It's always some shit happening. And you're going to always be healing. It's a lifelong journey. But that first step could be loving yourself. Now, I mentioned my little rules about self-care and shit and loving yourself and what it could, like, figuring out what it looks like. Because, you know, the shit is trendy right now. It's getting super commercialized. And that's a two-sided coin. Because on one hand of it, this is good that people are starting to talk about mental health, that people are starting to place value in this healing and self-care and shit like that. Like, this is really good. We need this type of shit so we can have some have some reform in our work lives, work experiences, family experiences, friendships, and shit like that. Like, this is some shit that the entire world could benefit from. On the flip side, it gets commercialized. And when it gets commercialized, then that means that there's a need that's not being met. You know what I'm saying? There's people going to a source that's supposed to help them, and that source is not helping. And when that source doesn't help, then people turn their face away from self-care. Then self-care doesn't help. You know what I'm saying? Then self-care is not a real thing. It turns people away from that shit. Like, y'all, and this is all psychology shit. Like, this shit ain't on no accident. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you know how fucked up the pharmaceutical world, the hospital world, the education world, fucking actually workforce development, like all that shit, do you know how fucked up that would be if people were empowered with the knowledge that they can do everything for themselves? The whole shit'll fall. The whole shit would fall. So be real with it. A motherfucker might make the shit sound cute. They might even give you some apps and websites and gadgets to help you do the shit that you can do for yourself. Because they much rather convince you that it has to come from outside of you. That it has to. There is literally, you got to really trip off the marketing and shit. Like, there's literally no way that that type of power and resource could come from you. And I'm here to tell you that's a bold-faced fucking lie. People are power. Not machines, not systems, not gadgets, nothing material. It's people that are power. It's the minds of the people, the hearts, the souls, the voices of the people that creates this world that we live in now. So what do you want your shit to sound like? Empower yourself. Love yourself. Shouldn't nobody be able to love you better than you? Nobody. Not your mama, your daddy, sister, brother, cousin, best friend for the last 8 years, 10 years, spouse, partner, fuck ever you want to call it, motherfucker. Nobody should be able to love you more than you. Nobody should know you better than you. Nobody should be more acquainted with your body, your spirit, and soul than you. You. It all starts with you. And like I said, I can't always say what it should look like. I'm not going to say what it should look like because you're your own person. You know what the fuck you need. Just like I know what the fuck I need. You know what I'm saying? And so my love in myself is me catering to what I need to feel secure and happy and shit. Creating my own freedom. You know what I'm saying? So you know what the fuck you need. Figure that out. But I'll tell you one thing I know. I'll tell you what I know it ain't. You can't tell me you love yourself and be in an abusive relationship. Don't add up. You can't tell me you love yourself and you allow people to manipulate you or you're manipulative to other people. That don't add up. You can't tell me you love yourself and you constantly comparing yourself to other people. That don't add up. You can't tell me you love yourself, but then it's based off the value that other motherfuckers place in you. You can't tell me that you love yourself, but it's about how men treat you and shit like that. Like that, none of that is loving yourself. And I want to encourage people who are out here in search of love. The love that you get from someone else is just an extra, it's a bonus. It can't do shit else for you. It can only add. It cannot fulfill. So if you have an empty space, you're going to still have that empty space. Because it ain't even about other people loving you sometimes. It's literally just about you loving your goddamn self. Man, I could just imagine like how beautiful the world could be if we all just fucking loved ourselves, hella like at a high ass level. There's a book called The Mastery of Love. Man, that's the book's name. Luis Miguel something, Rio something. Miguel something. Mastery of Love. And he basically says like, you're loving yourself means that you love yourself above any and everything, period. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. This is not a negotiation. That's it, period. You love yourself above any and all things. You prioritize yourself above any and all things. You look after yourself the most. You feed yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what loving self is. Like, above all things. Nobody should be able to disrupt that. Nobody. And if somebody is able to disrupt that, then maybe the shit wasn't as solid as you thought the shit was in the first place. You ain't rock solid. You're going to have to figure that out. Go ahead and revisit that drawing board and figure out what it is. What you got to do. Yeah. And don't get caught in the hype of other motherfuckers not loving themselves. It's an easy hype to get caught into. It's shit. Trauma spreads like wildfire, baby. Like, that shit spreads so fast, bro. You know, just like with women, you know, if you for women, if you spend a lot of time with certain groups of women and shit like that, your periods can all sync together and shit like that, right? It's the same shit with motherfuckers who don't love themselves. You spend too much time with a nigga that don't love themselves, boy, you'll start to feel the effects. Even if you didn't really have those type of issues like that before, you gonna start feeling like you do. You gonna start second guessing the shit out yourself for little dumbass shit like, damn, should I wear these pants today? Like, what's wrong with wearing these pants today? You know what I'm saying? It'll be like little dumb ass shit like that. So be mindful. And I think I said in one of these past episodes, I said something about, like, you know, when you at a certain level and you hang out with folks who are at a lower level than you, then eventually there's gonna shift that happens. You're either gonna come down to them or they're gonna come up to you. But to bring somebody up to you requires a certain level of loving of self, owning self, discipline. You know what I'm saying? So everybody can't do that shit. Some people might think that they can do it, but then when the task comes to hand, all hell is breaking loose. You're not quite able to grasp the concept the way you thought you could. It's important to not set yourself up for failure. You don't have to set yourself up for failure. Like, make shit easy on yourself. Be realistic. You know what I'm saying? And one thing I do want to encourage too, because I was just talking to one of my friends recently about, like, you know, her healing journey and isolation and stuff like that. Like, yo, sometimes isolation will be required. Sometimes you will have to be by yourself so that you can figure it out. Come on, bro. Shh. Shh. Dang, bro, you always said tripping. Yo, no go. Anywho, sometimes it requires some isolation. You might have to be by yourself a little bit. And that's okay. Because we don't need no distractions in the process of us trying to learn to love ourselves. Like, we don't need motherfuckers trying to tell us how to love ourselves. I don't know if that makes sense. That's low-key what I'm doing right now, huh? Well, my intentions is good. That's what really matters. But yeah, man, figure out what that looks like for you. Figure out what you need to do to be a wholesome person. And wholesome means that you're just all together, yo. There's another book I read. Man, I should do a better job of, like, remembering these different authors and titles. But there's another book I read that was talking about, like, you know, sometimes we experience some pain and sadness and trauma, like, depending on the severity of it, your soul could actually detach from your body. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we don't know that it is detached. There's some signs, of course, that you can see, if you know. There's some signs to show that a motherfucker is detached. But yeah, the soul will, like, damn near, what's that shit? Abort! Abort! It's bad! Abort! Like, they'll literally do that. So your soul will leave because it's not safe. It's been compromised. It doesn't feel the love it needs. And then you got to go through a whole process of reattaching them motherfuckers. That's wholesome to me, though. When my fucking camera died on the niggas. Oop, my camera died. And I almost messed up my lipstick. Anywho, I think where I was at before it died real quick. So yeah, wholesome to me is like the balance and connectedness of your mind, body, and soul. You can't be wholesome and one of those things is out of proportion or out of whack, off the Richter. And so yeah, I think that's the primary goal of healing, of loving yourself. It's just finding tranquility amongst those different levels and layers of ourselves. And so I want to challenge everyone in 2022 to love yourself the best way that you could do. You know what I'm saying? Learn to love yourself above every and all things and be committed to that process of loving yourself. Because it will take you a very, very long way. And there will be triggers. There will be things that kind of knock you off of that kind of misdirect you or fuck up your focus. And it's okay to always get back to center. You can always come back to your center and start again. Start again. This is a lifelong journey, baby. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for excellence, which takes time, discipline, and experience. So yeah, that's it. That's all. I think this is one of my longest videos. Like literally. Yeah. So anywho, be easy, stay breezy. Don't get kidnapped by no white peasies.